admonishments for underdogs. If you identify as an underdog, be happy. Just as power comes easily to the alphas, do you realize what comes easily to you? Just look at underdog communities. They are marked with down-to-earth, simple living attitudes without having to fall into superiority complexes in addition to some very admirable traits. When you find yourself in a diverse group of people, you are likely to encounter those who are gifted with special creative abilities. Where I live in the United States, I have found that more oppressed a community people group is, the more I find authentic and naturally gifted creative people. In my country, the top three I noticed are firstly women, obviously, followed by a tie between those of African and indigenous descent. Other oppressed groups include seniors and other racial culture minorities and a few other demographics I can personally relate to, the disabled and sexual minorities. But what I'm really focusing on in these studies has little to nothing to do with any of these traits because, as we have learned, born leaders are made in every community and represented in every demographic, whether they're considered privileged or not. But when there are those of us who are marked not only with traits from an underdog community, in addition to be marked as a runt, that's when we get a combination that takes a tremendous amount of advocacy, faith, and extra resources to get what comes naturally to alphas, also possessing other privileges. The point of this admonition, a fancy word for a pep talk, is that the less status you have in society, the more you naturally possess some unusual gifts. If you are 100% creator and 0% dominator, you are truly blessed, although it probably doesn't feel that way. You spend your life waiting at the end of the line. Everyone is cutting in front of you, and you never get served. But since you don't dominate others, your refusal to steal anyone's place in line. Your humanity is valuable to you. As a runt, you find yourself looking up at people, and as a result, you see things that others do not see. You also feel, while other people above you are numb. A runt of society is very often what I would consider a seer. You see what is blinding those who are preoccupied with their power and fears losing their power. Dare I say that you possess an uncanny ability that, if recognized, would be considered supernatural? These humble peasants working backstage, while those fabulous roosters wave their shiny feathers in the spotlight, getting all the attention, when the humble are unseen and have a reward of their own, a lucid state of being fully human. And at the same time, it's hard to reap rewards when nobody is there to hand you your trophy. That's where I come in and offer you my magic. The first time I explored the unlimited energy of positive affirmations, I was 20 years old. I couldn't sleep one night, and I drove out to Mount Tabor and walked around in my nightshirt and slippers on the basketball court. For those of you who aren't familiar with Portland, Oregon, that's the part of Mount Tabor Park is actually the dormant volcano caldera thing. Although I was marching around a volcano, I didn't think that had much to do with it. I could feel the power of my words as I learned to create my life, and that kept falling apart. Sadly, I didn't make manifesting a lifestyle for me. One prayer does it all. Perhaps sometimes for some people in some ways, but with power statements, it can often take a lot of persistence, even to the point of creating new habits. Fast forward to my mid-40s. That's when I began to really drill these words into my mind. The earth, and into the multiverse. It became a daily habit at periods of my life that came so naturally, like lyrics to your favorite song. I didn't have to memorize them after a while. They flowed so naturally. At this time, I had a partner who would stay back at camp while I would take daily walks around Crooked River Ranch in Central Oregon. I called it the Not-So-Grand Canyon. I was trying to employ help from my multimedia work, including public relations firms, and constantly failing miserable. As a response to being overlooked and ignored, I would walk around the canyon repeating statements like this: I am seen and heard for what I've suffered and survived, for what I've accomplished and accomplishing and what I will accomplish. I am considered and acknowledged. Later in my 40s, I pulled a Jim Carrey trick, which is an act of faith that includes writing yourself a check in the amount you choose. Since he realized the value of his abilities, he wrote out a check in proportion to what others in his field would get compensated for and sent it to himself. That's the thing about manifesting. You get what you ask for. So get specific. Don't just ask for what you deserve, because based on society, if you're a runt, you deserve nothing. Later that year, I decorated my place in affirmation graffiti, which in my case were pictures of places that I was believing to be. I printed out color photos that I stole from image searches and various high-profile creative and media careers and places of work, in addition to posters and calendars of types of locations that I wanted to relocate to. In my 50s, I began to elaborate. I am recognized and compensated. Learning what other recording artists were selling their libraries when retiring made me realize that their life's work did indeed have a dollar amount. Therefore, because audio production is one of my trades, I put a dollar amount on my library and shamelessly began to speak it out. This was not easy. I was still being programmed from the grand religion of status. And as part of that programming was that even if I did, in fact, get some attention for my work, I still somehow believed that I shouldn't get paid much for it. That's not humility, but stupidity. Most people who are successful in my field have little to no training and have not suffered or invested as much as I have to create what I do, in addition to the things I'm planning. Therefore, I picked a number. It was a number that I could live with, because if I manifest too much money, it could get addictive. And I could risk losing my creative abilities in addition to undermining my humanity. If you are in a place like that, pick a number, any number. Why not? Think about all the rich people you know and whether they are deserving and responsible with all their funds. You might as well. If you get too rich, you just give most of it away. Fund projects that are focused on empowering the powerless. You are likely to not find any charity worthy of your money, so create one. It doesn't have to be a nonprofit. Just get creative, fund it, and see what happens. It was as if there was an old song in my head, like Born to Lose. This is what always happens. This is what will happen. I hate it. I wish it would stop. I wish someone would listen and care. I get it. That's been on my playlist for a lifetime. I'm not asking you to reject it. That's how you feel. That's your reality. And we don't like denial. At the same time, we don't want to sing that song like a mantra. Otherwise, our magic might work against us. If we obsess on our fears and suffering, we could, like a magnet, be drawing more of it. But be glad, when it comes to power statements, a little can go a long way. It's tough at first, perhaps agonizing, to walk around in these new stiff shoes. Perhaps you felt a sort of happy because your subordinate position made others happy. Misery is miserable, but there's one thing that misery is. It's familiar. In fact, your suffering at the bottom society and all the abuse and neglect that others came with a crowd-sorted demotion and other horrid things that you endured actually feels comfortable because that's probably all you have known. I have tasted a little bit of success, so I know what it's like to have my phone ringing daily with people doing business with me, only to be suddenly met with silence. Over 20 years of mostly silence and the insanity that's produced as a result nearly cost my life, or at least it could have cost me my freedom. But no matter how torturous most of my life was, it was my home, my family, and my comfortable refrigerator box I was so accustomed to. Okay, when I was homeless, I never did literally sleep in a refrigerator box, but I thought that image was spiffy to make my point. It's not only comfortable and familiar, but being a loser is what you were destined to be in the context of your society's ranking system, and likely in your household. Everyone who hates you, loves you, exploits you, and provides for you is used to you being a runt and will make sure you stay a runt in order that you maintain your role so that everything will continue to work smoothly for them. When you choose your own price tag, and gosh forbid, even wear that price tag and talk about like you have the value that you choose, your life might have a period where it resembles a very hot underground place. Gnashing of teeth, fire, brimstone. You can have faith unto faith, to where you believe that you believe. It's a great tool for doubters. There's some of that in the affirmation list. Nothing wrong with doubt. Feel doubt and do it anyways. Speak over yourself that your prayers have been answered. They are being answered and will continue being answered. Believe, think, speak, and act with positivity, and allow your emotions to follow. If your emotions are still not in line with your magic, fake it. Laugh with joy, dance, smile, and keep rejoicing until it boosts your faith. All of these elements will improve the others. If you feel doubt, speak faith until you feel faith. If you think doubt, start thinking faith until it causes you to speak faith. If you find yourself constantly visualizing losing conflict situations, you can make it a habit of interrupting those with something positive, whether it is a healthy habit to stay in the moment. Perhaps just thinking or saying quietly, cancel, might be a good way to intercept mental mush. Sometimes it depends on my mood. If I'm in a panic attack mode, my negative thoughts will return to me within a second or two, and my mind suddenly becomes idle. But never fear. Negative thoughts don't ruin us. They won't ruin us as long as we don't constantly obsess on them. I like this quote here by the Reverend Kenneth E. Hagin. Negative thoughts are like birds. You can't keep them from flying around your head, but you can keep them from building a nest in your hair. I have found that self-defeating thoughts come and go, sometimes defeating and overwhelming. And yet, I just keep going about my day. I have also found that positive stuff, although uncomfortable at first, goes a long way. A lifestyle of manifesting is what I call the stuff needed to turn myself into an alpha from being a runt. I even developed a movement meditation exercise to help bathe myself in this beautiful, transformative energy. One of them I call the cocoon movement. You can make your own version of it. Qigong, spelled Qigong, and other forms of movement meditation have helped me a lot because of suffering from racing thoughts. It's a common symptom of complex PTSD. And silent meditation can actually make some people go nuts if they have chronic debilitating symptoms like that. Even if you have no leanings towards Eastern mysticism or any religious or spiritual beliefs, I have found that therapeutic benefits make movement meditation practices quite accessible. In addition, even if there's nothing metaphysical in your world, I would imagine that just the intention of you giving corresponding action to your empowerment will have an impact on your thinking, which will contribute to other areas of your life. The cocoon form movement. Stand in a private place. I recommend earthing yourself if possible, and keep your legs comfortably somewhat close together and feet on the ground. Begin the first movement by mimicking as if you were weaving yourself in silken threads with one hand slowly up and down from head to toe. No need to bend down that far if you have back problems. Introduce the other hand, weaving up and down, alternating with the other. When this becomes easy, the third movement is slowly spin around, or walk in a small circle if preferred. Start with counterclockwise if you want, and then after a few minutes you can switch directions. Sometimes walking in small figure 8 pattern can also add meaning and discipline, and may even create a nifty pattern on the ground if practicing outside. Imagine you are covering yourself with magical threads, glowing silver. You may prefer gold or white. You can mix this up or change it into whatever you want, just as long as your intention is clear. Metamorphosis into an alpha. With each breath, take in power from the earth and exhale while releasing everything pertaining to your old self. Fear, release resentment, release powerlessness, vulnerability, codependency, cowardice, and whatever no longer serves you in your new life. And now here's something called butterfly hands. Although there are some advanced butterfly-related Qigong forms. This is what I've learned from Lee Holden that I like because it focuses on the throat area. Whether you believe in invisible power centers in the body, the intention is clear: freeing blockages from your center of communication, also representing creativity and manifesting. Gently place your wrists together with your palms facing you and slowly moving back and forth toward your neck like a butterfly moving its wings. Time it with your breath, or at least be mindful of the breath. And imagine your speech center freeing as you are liberated to express yourself, manifest, and create. The armor form movement. Let's get creative with this one. Imagine you are a knight in shining armor, adorning yourself with a glowing silver protective covering. You can start toward your feet, palms facing your body as if you were like practicing Reiki on yourself. Without touching and moving higher as your hands move from side to side, almost as if you were washing yourself. Continue as you reach the top and release. Reverse the form and repeat as many times as you want. Now let's do some exercises similar to what I'd call emergence. It's very similar to the previous exercise. Feel free to find other forms that enable this kind of breakthrough energy. Some of my favorites are the bear swimming backwards, water waves, hand presses, and lunges. Although there are many ways to interpret these terms and movements from the original Chinese, I prefer the westernized and simplified forms, unless you'd like to be more orthodox. Try learning and creating forms that involve hand movements, as if you were breaking out of the jungle, like entangled vines, cutting them, moving them away from you as you proceed into your freedom. Emergence-related forms are a follow-up to the cocoon exercise, so you can visualize yourself cutting your cocoon as you emerge as a different creature. Unplugging. Although there are a lot of holistic practices that apply to techniques like cord cutting, I like to simplify and do what works best for me. You don't need a trustworthy intuition or even the ability to function in altered states of consciousness, although some of that might help. You can just use your imagination and your intention. You can also mix this practice with other movements and tools like earthing and moving in a small circle, counterclockwise or clockwise. I like to see my invisible body as having these wires or cords that I might be plugging into others coming from the right side of my mid-body near the kidney, representing any ways I might be draining energy from anyone whom I could be over or undermining their power. Most importantly, I envision the wires plugged into my left side as cords that are draining my power. As various things come to mind, create a sort of dance as you symbolically grasp those cables and flick them away from you. Time it with your breath and other movements if you prefer. The more of an alpha type you are, the more you will need to unplug cords from your right side, thus freeing yourself from being dependent on draining the power of others. The more of an underdog you are, the more you will have things plugged into your left side, symbolizing everything trying to drain you of your energy. As you practice this form, you might consider employing the curse-breaking techniques here mentioned at the beginning of this next part here. Try to be as exhaustive as you can, and do these routines daily if needed, unless you develop a lifestyle of being unplugged from everything and everyone that is trying or succeeding at zapping you of your power. Breaking curses. Curse breaking is easy and available to everyone, and at the same time, it may require some time to build your faith in yourself and your authority over anything and everything tampering with your life. I highly recommend a practical earthing practice during any curse breaking. You don't need to buy expensive earthing kits, and just look up how to do it yourself if necessary, just as long as your body is physically grounded to the earth. This kind of grounding is not really a spiritual thing necessarily. I practice earthing while touching a rusty old metal fence post. I practice earthing by walking on a concrete foundation in my socks or bare feet, but I prefer walking barefoot on a sandy, wet beach. I just don't live near a beach, so I do whatever works. Recognize that you are made of the same stuff as the earth. You are a part of the earth, and anything not of the earth doesn't belong in your life. You already possess the authority to rid yourself of anything tampering with our world. Sometimes it helps to touch the earth with your hands as you break your curses. If these don't seem to work, chances are you just don't feel anything yet, and that's okay. In addition, there might be old vows, generational bonds, bad magic with old relationships and organizations that had you bound. Therefore, take some time, do some research, and maybe find a healthy support, although in my experience, doing this on my own was the best for me. Everyone I know who has practiced forms of deliverance, shamanic type work, or forms of magic, called on names and heard voices, and I would end up with some new baggage in addition to little to no relief. No need for a higher power to assist you because it's you breaking the vows. It's you exercising your legal right. If anything, it might be fun to have a witness to help say, "So be it," with you as you smile and encourage you. Most underdog types don't have that level of support, so no worries. Just make sure you don't practice this stuff like this with your average bossy person, because your goal is releasing yourself from that kind of energy, not submitting to them in that process. It will likely be counterproductive. The Curse of Cassandra prayer. If you identify with my earlier references to the character Cassandra in the Apollo myth, I mentioned at earlier times in this audiobook, we might as well give it the label I referred to as it and break it. I renounce the curse of Cassandra over my past, present, and future. I break every intention to keep me silent and invisible, and free myself from every curse, vow, hex, spell, intentions, and all prayers pertaining to similar efforts to keep me in a place of being ignored and neglected in my abilities, my work, my care, and touching every area of my life and my relations. So be it. The Alpha's transformative prayer. I transform myself into a powerful, recognized, and influential Alpha. I renounce my previous life of submission, servitude, and giving in to the abuse of power. I resist and overcome all efforts to own, influence, control, manipulate, tamper, and hinder my will, thoughts, and emotions. I own my body, my possessions, my mind, my ideas, and everything that I have a right to control in my life and work. I reclaim every part of myself that was stolen unwillingly. I reclaim every part of myself that I gave willingly and forgive myself for allowing such deception. So be it. Free from all, renouncing all. Although Paul in the New Testament was in a different situation, converting from one boss to another, I like to use some simple phrases taken out of context to relate to as an exercise to be free from all and renouncing all. In addition to Paul the Apostle, Jesus also told his followers to renounce everything. Ironically, it was to be bound by something else, but I hope you get my point I'm trying to make. I'm accustomed to using biblical references. My versions of renouncing exercises free you from the baggage associated with your citizenship, job, memberships, marriage, or anything else you might belong to or responsible for or have at one time given yourself to. Although some may misinterpret this literally, following my exercise and end up divorced, stateless, and jobless. I don't recommend doing all that. Keep your marriage, your job, your church memberships, your club memberships, and definitely, unless you have as much support as Einstein did, don't literally renounce your citizenship. My point is about the spooky entanglements that come with a lot of these seemingly harmless traditional institutions. It's about unplugging yourself from all the things that could have been draining your energy as a result of being tied to anything or anyone. Although some of these covenants might be empowering to you, they could be hindering the flow of your personal power while keeping you bound in ways you are aware of or not. Exhaustive freedom comes from breaking off all that energy and starting fresh while maintaining any relations you may need to continue to take responsibility if necessary. I also wonder, for some listeners are wondering if their job, the nation they are based in, their faith organization, or any other people or things that they are tied to needs to literally change in their life. Don't sue me if things go wrong. I just know that in my life, I had to leave churches, jobs, relationships, and even my own country of origin to find my freedom. But I didn't know for sure until I broke the energetic vow in private. It's as if you are freeing yourself from the spirit of the tie while physically living with it. I renounced my United States citizenship in a time of private prayer and healing while remaining a legal American citizen. I broke ties with a partner while I was still in the relationship without ending it. That was a strange experience as well. I broke ties with media influences and everything I could think of that might possibly be influencing me and thus zapping me of my power in significant or even small ways. There were times as boys we would do a blood brother pact. And in all innocence and ignorance, it did little to nothing spiritually. Hopefully it didn't transmit any bloodborne pathogens in addition. If you remember doing stuff like that as a kid, especially messing with occult practices, summoning entities, or what you may have believed to be the voices of the deceased, those actually might have an effect on your adult life. Role-playing games, spirit mediums, and even saying the classic sinner's prayer conversion to evangelical Christianity. Those can be legal grounds for anything that might be keeping you powerless in your adult life. If you remember any of these, I would recommend adding them to your list, just in case. If there are also some things that you may not remember, in addition to things that you are not present for. Therefore, it may help you to do some research into your family background for cultic organizations, secret societies, and other creepy things that may have surprisingly affected your personal power. In addition to all the outward entanglements you may have been tied to throughout your lifetime, consider all the intentions and magical stuff spoken or practiced over you before you were born. For instance, my destiny, so to speak, in the womb was to create peace and harmony in a failing marriage. Although my job as a peacemaker sounds like a boon, In the context of a cruel and abusive environment, that role also did not enable me to defend myself. There were also secret rituals done in my name because of cultic practices in my family. Nothing to be afraid of. We have power over all these things because those are basically colonists in our realm, and they do not belong here. And we have authority. So get rid of them, all of them. While you are at it, get rid of any other vows and similar covenants and pacts you have not only made with others, but with yourself. Forgive yourself all your New Year's resolutions that kept you bound, shamed, guilty, and disempowered. You may also want to investigate deeply and discover any unwritten, unspoken, or unconscious vows that, because of fear and hurt, kept you away from your goals. For example, you did not literally say, "I'll never love again." However, something inside you believes that as a result of your past influencing your actions. Add that, and whatever else you can, to your list of hindrances. Your list of curses, vows, and other entanglements can be over 100 items long. That's okay. It may take you a few hours to go over everything. Over the next several weeks, you may realize other 100 items and spend some more time breaking more curses. Some might be hiding because of additional magic used to keep them secret from you. In other words, some things, or maybe everything, will be clear to you now, and likely it'll be a process. You probably will also need to keep these prayers handy in case you invite an asshole into your house after you break up with a sociopath. Sometimes these ties are obvious. Sometimes they require investigation and perhaps outside help. And sometimes it takes faith for them to be revealed. You can find answers if you are open to them and discerning. One easy way is dream prompting. Just say or think to yourself in the present tense that you dream about the answers. Take notes just as you wake up and elaborate on the details when you get a chance. Find some simple and practical dream work tools if unsure about any confusing symbolism, and consider voicing your dreams to someone reliable in these matters, and perhaps even employing a quality chatbot for more ideas. You can also apply these principles to your place of habitation, and you don't necessarily need something like a sage bundle, although for some, they are accustomed to be a point of contact to release their faith, as long as it does not possess any further entanglements. For instance, if I use a smudge stick, I don't get ones that have prayers or consecrated by a shaman, and if possible, I make my own. The point is, if you're inviting Mr. Medicine Man Extraordinaire or Father so-and-so to cast demons out of you and your house, your kids, and your insane dog, and in the name of Saint so-and-so, you will now have to deal with all the spooky baggage of whatever spiritual residue and intentions might be behind those lovely people. Your dog might just go from one kind of crazy to another kind of crazy. This also undermines the whole point of this audiobook, your personal empowerment. So why rely on the power of spiritual leaders calling on names and hearing voices? There's a New Testament reference to religious leaders, scribes, and Pharisees who claimed Jesus used Satan's power, the prince of demons, to cast out other demons in Matthew 9 and Luke and Mark. Although in a very different context, I do find it amusing that even these power-hungry fake preachers back then knew of the concept of what I reluctantly refer to as casting out a lower demon by a higher demon. In Acts 19, it says, "But the evil spirit reported, I know and recognize and acknowledge Jesus, and I know about Paul. But as for you, who are you?" That's from the Amplified Bible. I like that. Who the fuck are you? That's my version. You are of this earth, and they are tampering with this earth and trying to tamper with your life, and thus not of this earth. Whatever they are in some kinds of mental programs going from mind to mind over the generations, from other realms in the multiverse that exist beyond linear time and our three-dimensional space. Whatever it or she or he may be, they do not rule your life. They do not own you, so free yourself. Aside from invisible forces, free yourself from anyone trying to overpower you or undermine your power. They are likely to be influenced by these invisible forces at work in the earth, so deal with them accordingly. If you want to break curses over your children, proceed with caution. That could really hurt them. It is by you and for you. No need to cure everyone around you, although your empowerment might be contagious to other underdogs around you. No need to call on a name, a saint, a god, a goddess, or any other entity, or whether specific or vague things like source, spirit of the earth, the universe, or creation. It is your legal right. Liberate yourself from a lifetime of entanglements like a detox. For some people, things might get really dramatic at first. Just keep going. It's a good sign that there was a lot trying to keep you bound. Some of you, after finishing the curse-breaking exercises, might find that this was the main thing keeping you silent and invisible. Most importantly, please do not use your power or your intentions or any other magic or faith practices to tamper with the free will of other people. That will entangle you back into some really bad magic. Unbind yourself and don't bind others in any way. Although some might believe in some exceptions like psychic self-defense. As a guideline, I respect the will of everyone, even abusers, for the simple fact that I don't want to participate in that kind of energy, nor want to be a hypocrite. Speak through these in a private place where you feel safe, comfortable, and relaxed. Even if you are not currently a gamer, for instance, feel free to go through everything listed, like various games, for instance, and various obsessions and anything that might be hindering your power. If you don't notice any friction or resistance, it's likely hiding or not much of an issue. If you sense oppositional energy or an unwillingness to renounce your love and devotion to various people and things, those people and things could very well be having a hold on you. Please don't forget to add to my list because they are not comprehensive. And this is an old version of this, updated with some of the latest trends that may be captivating people's attention. The stronger and conflicting energies, the stronger the hold may be. And some may take longer than a simple practice to overcome. Also, remember that you are not necessarily literally quitting all these practices and associations. You're just releasing yourself from the power of them and allowing yourself to no longer be dependent on them. So, here are some examples of curse breaking. I free myself from any magic or intention done to keep any specific entanglements hidden from me. I speak light and revelation over me. And my relations, past, present, and future, revealing anything and everything that was intended to hinder my will, my life, my work, and my power. Another powerful example you can practice with me. Just fill in the blank. I renounce blank, and then I break their power, whatever it is, over my mind, my will, and my emotions, and no longer have any power over me and my life, and if this applies, and my work. Here's another fill in the blanks here. I release any hurt, bitterness, resentment, and unforgiveness related to a group or an individual. And I am free from the fear, trauma, and any related suffering. I renounce all media and social media influences and spiritual teachings and remove their influence from my thinking, decisions, emotions, and behaviors. I renounce, past and present, any obsessions and all my affections and devotions to all artists, entertainers, writers, teachers, motivational speakers, clergy, movies, shows, computer and board games, music, books, comics, collectibles, role-playing games, fan clubs and groups, software and mobile apps, social media influencers, AI chat-related programs, streaming media, movie studios, television networks, shopping, vehicles, pets, drugs, alcohol, geographical locations, friends, family members, jobs, hobbies, all other personal belongings, and other things that have brought to mind, including, this and that. I give myself the freedom to walk away from any of these things if needed, and no longer love and value them as much as I love and value my personal freedom and empowerment. I break every spell, prayer, hex, chant, entity, assignment, influence, and intention, whether hidden or not, that tried to keep me bound in any form. I renounce, past and present, any gods or spirits I served or am serving, and any other vow and any other kind of relationship, whether past or present. I renounce my national citizenship and any tribal membership, spiritual or religious organizations, charity groups, social groups, and any other organization, coven, place of worship, job, family, and anything that I might have missed, that I'm currently involved with, or involved in the past. I renounce every agreement that I had made, whether conscious or not. I break every pattern in my life that does not serve me. I release any affections and any emotional attachments from everything I am renouncing or am loyal to. It is done. I am free indeed. I celebrate with joy and gratitude.